President Joe Biden will announce that he will withdraw U.S. troops from Afghanistan by September 11th, the 20th anniversary of the terrorist attacks on America that were coordinated from that country. Several U.S. officials said on Tuesday. In 2014, Barack Obama declared a formal end to the war in Afghanistan. 7 years later, and Joe Biden is finally setting an unconditional timetable for withdrawal from America's longest war in history. While Biden's decision to keep troops in Afghanistan 4 months longer than initially planned, it sets a firm end to 2 decades of war that killed more than 2,200 U.S. troops and wounded 20,000 and cost as much as $1 trillion. An administration official said Biden decided that the withdrawal deadline had to be absolute rather than based on how conditions are on the ground. He said, quote, "We're committing today to going to 0 U.S. forces by September 11th, possibly well before," the official said, adding that Biden concluded that a conditional withdrawal would be a recipe for staying in Afghanistan forever. Man, it's just thinking about the fact that it is coming up on 20 years.
Yes,
not
man.
only since 9/11, but the war in Afghanistan. I mean, we went into Afghanistan the very next month, October 2001. And man, there are people who are fighting in that war right now who weren't even born. 20-year-olds who are in the military right now who are fighting in a war that started before they were born. So the fact that Joe Biden is going to get us out of there finally, I mean, we've been promised that since Obama's administration, but it's about damn time we got out of there. James, what you think, man?
Man, I can't believe, like, Ben, like, you really brought up a good point, dude. Like, it's 20-year-olds really fighting that war that y'all weren't even here yet, man.
Yeah.
That's really crazy. And just to know that it's going to be 20 years, like, dude, I remember exactly where I was to the day that I don't think I'll ever forget.
Where were you? Where were you on that day?
Man, I was actually still in Daytona. I was going to drop my application off at the housing authority to apply for public housing. And it's weird because I didn't cut the radio on that morning. You know, I love music, so I just plugged my little CD player up because we still had the portable Discmans then, and put the little headphone jack in and everything, and was on the way to drop the application off. And Ben, matter of fact, it was Jeremy S. was the one that called and was like, "Man, you saw everything that's going on?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He was like, "A plane crashed into the building, World Trade Center." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, man, that's crazy." So once I finally get back home, turn the TV on, that's everything. And I'm just like, just shocked, floored the rest of the day.
Man, I was in a real estate class training, and because I was 20 at the time. I was 20, and I had just dropped out of college for the first time. Dropped out multiple times. Finally went back and finished, but that's not the point. The point is I had dropped out. I left Cookman. I dropped out, and I was trying to find something to do with my life, and I started doing real estate. And we were sitting in Century 21 training office, and the broker came in just crying, and I'm like, whoa, what the hell? And she was like, we've been attacked, and they cut the TV on, and all we saw over and over again were the towers falling. And I remember it so vividly, partly because my brother was in New York at that time. He was near the Trade Center, and he has pictures that are like unbelievable, where they had to hide under cars. They had to walk by foot across to New Jersey, and they had to stay with people. So it's like it leaves indelible images on our mind of how traumatic that day was. But to think of the fact that we are engaged in a war still to this day, 20 years ago, man, 20 years ago, there's like, it is the longest war in American history. And it is $1 trillion that we spent. And we have invested so much money into the war machine, into the quote unquote war on terror with almost no returns. I mean, really, what are the returns that we get from war in the first place? Dead bodies. Let's just be real about it, right? You know, we don't have the and if, David, if you don't mind, searching for how many people in Afghanistan, how many Afghanis were killed, right? We say 2,200 Americans, 20,000, but I know the war on terror in Iraq cost 500,000 Iraqi lives, right? And how many how many people from Afghanistan were killed as a result of this war that's still going on to this day. We have in this country, we have this unbelievable capacity to just go to war and sustain war and do it for generations nonstop. I mean, can we think of a period in American history where we weren't at war? And part of that is like, you know, yeah, we were attacked on September 11th. But then there's a huge part of the reason why we're still there 20 years later is because there was $1 trillion on the table. And there are plenty of organizations out there. There's plenty of defense contractors out there that were more than happy to make sure that we never left Afghanistan because that meant money for them every single quarter, unbelievable profits. And when we say $1 trillion, I want us to put it in perspective also. That's not money that went into thin air. In fact, that's not money that overwhelmingly went to the troops. That's money that went to really extremely wealthy defense contractors and warmongers, people who make a living off of war. Excuse me. So the fact that that's coming to an end, it really should have came to an end a long time ago. And the war in Iraq should never have started in the first place. But we'll see. Let's see if Joe Biden actually keeps his promise here. He set a hard deadline, and so let's see if he sticks with it. Another piece of news on President Biden, he is on track to accept the fewest number of refugees this year of any modern president, including Trump, according to a report released Friday from the International Rescue Committee, a nonprofit humanitarian aid group. Since the beginning of his campaign, Biden has tried to cast himself as completely opposed to President Donald Trump when it comes to welcoming refugees in the United States. Despite signing executive orders to rebuild settlement programs and revoking Trump-era policies that ban many refugees, President Biden has yet to sign a, quote, presidential determination. This means Trump's old policies and the 15,000 person camp on refugee settlement that he put into place will remain. Normally, the signing of a presidential determination takes place nearly immediately after policies like Biden's executive orders are announced, but it's been 8 weeks and there has been so far no such signing. The International Rescue Committee says that the reason for the delay is unclear and very unusual. The timing is also very poor when the multitude of refugee crises taking into account coming at the border. President Biden's 2022 discretionary budget does include requests for increases in funding to support his executive actions, but this does little to help those refugees currently in limbo who cannot wait. Quote, as a result, tens of thousands of already cleared refugees remain barred from resettlement, and over 700 resettlement flights have been canceled, leaving vulnerable refugees in uncertain limbo, according to the report. So this is the flip side. It's a good thing that we're getting out of Afghanistan, and I do believe we're going to be able to hold him to it. He's going to hold himself to it. But what's going on with the refugees? What's going on with our inability to make a complete about face from what happened during the Trump administration? Because to be quite frank with you, if we said it was bad in the Trump administration, we are morally obligated to call it out and say that it is bad underneath the Biden administration, no matter what color his political party is. If we oppose the treatment of refugees and immigrants in this country underneath Donald Trump, and those policies have not changed, then we need to oppose it underneath Joe Biden. And if it's something as principled as him needing to go ahead and sign this piece, this determination, this presidential determination, if it's something as simple as that, then the real question is why have they not done it? And what are the politics around it? Who are the influencers around it? Who are the lobbyists around it? Who are the politicians who are in his ear right now telling him to keep this the same way that was happening as it was happening underneath Donald Trump? That's the real question that we have to get to. And that's the question that we need to answer to, because we are not going to celebrate Joe Biden simply because he's not Donald Trump if he's continuing the same policies as Donald Trump, particularly as it pertains to refugees.